everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kayla. In case you haven't watched any of my videos before, I always forget to remind myself, that plenty of people start watching in the middle of a video and you guys are watching and some of you don't know who I am. So I'm Kayla if you don't know that, and if you're watching my channel for the first time, this is a mainly booktube homeschool channel, and I felt like I just need to say that today because I noticed so many other booktubers and YouTubers in general have their stuff together and never forget to say all the right things, it seems, and I'm just bumbling along and not knowing what I'm doing. Anyways, it's July and I can hardly believe it. June's already over, and I feel like everyone says this and then I say it too. We're always like, wow, where did March, April, May, June go? Where did last year go? But it just keeps happening and it keeps going by really quickly. So today I'm just gonna show what I read in the month of June, which was semi-productive as far as my reading goes. Again, less than I'd hoped, but about what I expected. It being summer, and it just seems like it's a busier time. And this is my water bottle. I noticed that I was holding it in my last video and it was just kind of awkwardly staying over here, but still in the picture, but not talking and me not interacting with it. So I'm just holding this in case I get a dry mouth. So enough of that. I'm just going to share what I read this month. I'm pretty happy with what I read. The only thing that I'm disappointed about is I didn't finish It yet by Stephen King. I'm getting a little worn down by the length of the books. I love it so far. I don't know where I'm at right now with it. Page 600 and something, and it has 1,000 pages. So I'm getting there, and I'm really enjoying it and all that, but I need to take a break from it because I noticed halfway through the month I was still reading it, and I hadn't picked up any other books, and I really just wanted to read some other books. So FYI, I haven't finished that. I'm still reading that, but I am enjoying it. I just need a little bit of a break and read things that felt more manageable and that I could get through faster and just enjoy a reading, because it started to feel like I had to finish Stephen King. Sorry, I'm getting distracted because I feel like a little gnat or something flew in my eye, which are everywhere right now. Okay, so the first book that I read this month, which I actually started in the middle of the month, was Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale. I actually checked it out from the library, and then I had to return it, and I was going to recheck it out, but there was a hold on it, and I didn't know if someone had placed a hold on a book that you can't recheck it out. And so I panicked a little bit because I was already halfway through it. I'd read that in a day's time because this book was that good. I was halfway through it, and then I couldn't read the rest of it. So I jumped on Amazon, got my 2-day Prime shipping, and got it as quickly as possible so I could finish it. This was way better than I thought it was going to be. It was one of those where I wasn't sure if it was going to be a Fahrenheit 451 situation, which I did not like, and so many people did. So I didn't know, because there's books like that out there that you just don't know. Like Jane Eyre, it seems like you either love it or you're not impressed, and the same with other type books. And I really didn't know, but I loved this book. And now it's apparently a series on Hulu, which I don't have, but I might just have to get in order to watch this, because I've heard the show is really good as well. This is set in the United States in a future time when sort of like the country's turned into a theocracy, a really conservative one, and women are valued for procreation pretty much only. They aren't allowed to hold jobs anymore or places in government. There's no authority that they have. They're solely procreators, keepers of the home. There's different levels of women in this book, which I don't know how in depth I want to get with that. There's different types of women in this book, but none of them have really any rights, so to speak. And so this just follows the story of one woman in particular, and how she deals with it, because it's set in the future, but it's set in a time where most people can remember how it used to be. There hasn't really been a whole new generation yet, or generation, since the United States has changed. So everybody still remembers how it used to be, or most of the adults remember how it used to be. And so the main character in this book remembers how the United States used to be, and remembers what it was like to be a free woman, basically. So I thought that was sort of a different way to do things, because you got flashbacks of how the world changed and back and forth between the past and present, but it didn't take place during the change. The story doesn't take place during that time, and it doesn't take place in a time when nobody can remember, when everybody just accepts the way it is, or whatever. And I liked that it was set right in that chunk of time where it had been going on, but the adults remember how it used to be. So I just really enjoyed this. I know a lot of people are reading books these days. They're like, wow, that really speaks to the time we're in. And I definitely think this is one of those. This was a book that, I won't say it scared me. I didn't feel real fear when reading it, but so many of the themes in it, and the way people talked about the way life is in here, sounded somewhat familiar to me, and so that was a little like, whoa, and I just wanted to keep reading. And I don't think I guess this was the scary part for me. It didn't feel like an impossibility. We read books like this, and I think most of us, our gut reaction is, no, not possible. Your mind automatically goes, no, not possible. It's just a fiction book. But then you think about all the things that have happened in the past that just blows our mind today, and I'm like, I read this, and some of it feels a little too familiar, and I'm like, possible. Nothing is impossible, and usually people apply that to really good things, nothing is impossible. But it can have negative connotations too, that little phrase, nothing is impossible, and this is a good one to keep in mind. A good companion book for this, I wanted to mention real quick before I set it down, is George Orwell's 1984. I thought that these two were similar in that way. I think in particular the censorship and the control of language somewhat was similar in those two books. So if you liked 1984, I definitely recommend this if you haven't read it yet. The next book that I read this month was Coyote, the Hunter in Our Midst by Catherine Reed. I just picked this up on a whim at the library, mainly because coyotes are on the mind right now. Where we live, in my particular community, there have been several coyote sightings lately, which is not unusual. We live in the mountains. There's wildlife all around. I expect to see or hear about other people seeing coyotes. And so it's just been going around my community. It's something that nobody's up in arms in, but people are nervous about right now. There was a coyote spotted just a few weeks ago in my neighbor's yard, which my neighbor's yard is really close to my barn where my animals are, so that kind of had me on edge. We already sleep with the windows open, but I was been waking up in the middle of the night, listening and hoping I don't hear anything not normal. So I just picked this up mainly because around here, with homesteading in general, or any type of farming or animal keeping, I picked it up because I was hoping to get to know my enemy, so to speak. And I just use that phrase because it makes the most sense, even though I don't consider coyotes enemies. And I will say, I liked this book, but it wasn't what I expected. I expected more of an observation of coyote behavior because I want to get to know this animal that I have to share my home and life with, that I'm going to be seeing around here, that's actively, you know, going to be targeting the animals that belong to me. And I just wanted to get to know that animal in sort of a scientific but easy to read book. And I was just a little disappointed about this because this is mainly about a woman. It's nonfiction, by the way, if you haven't guessed. I forgot to mention that. It's basically about a woman and her partner and how they move to the middle of nowhere, basically. Was it Maine or something? I don't know. In a cabin of some sort. And her desire to see a coyote. And then there's some science and studies and whatnot sprinkled in here. But it just wasn't what I expected as far as teaching me a little bit or showing me a little bit about natural. I wanted to learn more about coyote behavior, and it was mainly about the woman and her opinions on things, which was fine. Just wasn't what I expected. But I did like this this quote in the book, and I'm going to read it to you really quick because it's a good reminder for everyone, and I just wanted to share it. But it says, "More than any other animal," writes Linda Hogan, "wolves mirror back to us the predators we pretend not to be. Thus, we have assigned them a special association with evil." And I just really like that because it's a good reminder of, I don't know how to put it, we, and when I say we, I guess I'm speaking to more farmers, homesteaders, or maybe anyone that has an issue with wildlife in their backyard, so to speak, and they don't want it to be around. I feel like we get scared, irrationally scared, because we see ourselves in these animals sometimes, and it's just an important reminder that we're not so different, and there's no such thing as a good or evil animal. They just are, and we just are, and we just have to accept. We all have to accept who we are. I don't know where I was going with that. I feel like I'm butchering this, but I feel like maybe somebody will get my meaning here. Moving on, though. It was a good book, just not what I was hoping it would be, but that was okay. The next book that I finished was Black Beauty by Anna Sewell. This is actually an audiobook that I checked out from the library. I was going to read my hardback version, and I apologize for the mowing sound just getting louder, but my husband is home and he's mowing. But I just checked this out, and this was really enjoyable to listen to. This was a reread for me. In case you didn't know, I am a big fan of Black Beauty, the movie and the book. This was narrated beautifully. Oh, it was read by Jeff Harding, so that's who the narrator was. So it was read beautifully, and I'm glad I listened to it again. I have nothing negative to say because it's Black Beauty, and it's beautiful. And if you love books about animals or horses or classic books about animals or whatever, then please read Black Beauty, because I will never recommend this enough. I feel like everybody should read Black Beauty. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And the last book that I read, I actually didn't finish this month. I finished it yesterday, July 1st, but I'm including it because I read it very quickly. But that was Room by Emma Donoghue. And I checked this one out. I'm getting uncomfortable holding it because the light keeps catching it. I checked this one out from the library on a whim, sort of, because I had seen it mentioned in another video, and I just remember thinking, oh, I want to read that whenever I find it and get the chance. And then I saw it, and I was like, why not? So I checked it out, and I'm so glad I did. I read this book, again, it was one of those like day and a half reads where I just went through it very quickly because it was very enthralling. This book, I believe, I'm pretty sure, is based off a true story, and I can't think of any names or where this occurred, Europe somewhere, where in the true story, a father imprisons his daughter, basically in a very airtight, like soundproof area of his home, and he raped his daughter and had several children with her over the course of like 17 to 20 years or something like that. And then they were finally released, and they'd been living, you know, without sunshine or interaction with other people for that long. And this was a true story. And Room, I'm pretty sure, is based off that story. This is all written from the perspective of a 5-year-old boy who lives in Room with his mother. And he's never been outside of Room. His whole life has been Room. He thinks that nothing else exists except Room. If you leave Room, it's just space, empty space. It's just him and his mom and old Nick, who visits, but he is never allowed to see. He has to hide when he comes. And just, wow. The fact that this was written from a 5-year-old's perspective and done so well just astounds me. This was very easy to read in that sense because it was so enjoyable and so believable, because Miss Donahue here, she did a great job of making the voice of this 5-year-old boy be really believable. And I'm not going to say much more than that because I'm never sure how much information is too much. But yes, I highly recommend this book. I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And if you've read any of the books that I managed to read this month, please do comment and let me know what you thought of them. Especially The Handmaid's Tale and Room, because Room caught me by surprise. Room was a whim, and then I ended up really enjoying it. So I need to do just more random, catch my eye shelf pickings from the library. But yes, that's what I read this month. If you didn't or haven't read any of these books, I encourage you to do so for the most part because I enjoyed them all. There were none that deeply disappointed me or I thought were terrible. Let me know what you guys read this month, and I will talk to you again soon.